The new Harry Potter HBO show has already had a series of announcements across the board, and one thing that a lot of people are still curious about is just how this show will differ from the movies. And whilst the show isn't a remake of the films but an adaptation of the books, comparisons will always be made as there is little to compare to in this particular medium. With that being said, based on general news, leaks and whatnot, we can already break down a series of things that the show will be changing from the movies, and we're going to do that right now. What I'm going to do is I am going to be breaking down the sections of each change and explaining what we know about those differences so you guys can get a fair comparison of just how extensive these differences are. If you guys are wanting more Harry Potter updates and general content, be sure to subscribe to the channel as it's a relatively new channel and the support would be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, let's get straight to it. The first major difference that isn't actually just a movie thing, but a book thing, is that the show will not be fixed solely from Harry's perspective. The movies introduced the Wizarding World and all its characters similar to the book, and that was when Harry came across them. So we learned about Hogwarts, specific lessons, and met various characters when he was first introduced to them. It was revealed this week that they will be showing elements that we haven't seen before, things like Draco's home life, which likely means the life of the other students will be shown as well. This also ties into the Dumbledore scene we saw by the beach from behind the scenes pictures last year, in which Dumbledore seemed to be visiting the Flamels, which wasn't anywhere in the books or the movies, as we never really drifted from Harry's side. The second major change is the soundtrack. The original theme for Harry Potter is iconic and has become very widely associated with the franchise, but HBO announced that they would be steering away from using it, and instead they have hired Hans Zimmer, who's a fantastic composer, to create a brand new theme instead for the show, which means we won't be hearing any of the iconic themes at any point in this show. Number 3. Diagon Alley looks completely different in the show to the movies. The films had an individual design for each building with a sort of whimsical appearance that played into the backstreet aspect of an England shopping district. However, the show has gone for a more realistic approach, with the set leaks revealing that, while still very whimsical, it's more realistic looking. The change in direction is subtle, and I think both look good for different reasons. Which one do I think looks more accurate? I would lean more on the original film versions, as it kind of looks more out of this world that I would expect from Diagon Alley, but then we haven't actually seen the show version on screen yet, so I think we'll be able to judge more when that happens. Number 4, the Hogwarts uniforms. Upon first glance, these uniforms seem identical, but in actual fact, the jumpers here appear slightly maroon in comparison to the all grey, all black that came with the films. I haven't seen much of the jumpers on other, characters, but based on this photo of Dominic as Harry, it definitely seems this jumper is more maroon. I don't know if this is just a Gryffindor thing or, tied to a specific house, but time will tell as we see more of the pictures come out. Maybe, Slytherins will be slightly green and Hufflepuff slightly yellow, that kind of thing. Maybe they're going to go for the individual house jumpers. Number 5, we have an accurate house mascot for Ravenclaw. Minor, I know, but in the books, the house symbol for Ravenclaw was actually an eagle, but the movies changed it to a raven. As spotted on set leaks, the symbol is in fact an eagle on the show, meaning that it's far more faithful to the source material. Number 6, lost characters will appear. People who were omitted from the movies have already seen castings in the new show. People like Peeves and Professor Binns, who never showed up in the films, will be present on the show, which means we'll be seeing more of an expansive look of the school and possibly some more classroom scenes that we didn't get in the films. Number 7, and perhaps one of the most important ones, the show, like the books, will very much take place in the 1990s, whereas the films seem to take place at the time they were filmed. This change is huge. Whilst it doesn't seem like much of a big leap or that it doesn't hold any significance, they have a real chance to add some 90s culture here. Things were totally different in the 90s, phones and such weren't a thing, so having the characters live by that will allow them to stick closely to the source material, like Harry waiting for letters from his friends, as opposed to quickly sending them a WhatsApp. which honestly I'm surprised from a modern show they didn't lean into, but I'm so glad they are sticking to it this time, as it's a constant in my mind when reading these books that these were set in the 90s, and it just wasn't present in the films. It also means that we could possibly see some of those awful 90s fashions show up too, which we have already seen a little in the behind the scenes photos of the Dursleys with Harry. You can see those 90s fashions are already there, so I'm glad they are actually paying attention to that. And finally, number 8, castle continuity. The show has built brand new castle sets from the get-go, whereas the original film went on location for certain scenes, which eventually had to change and result in sets being built much later. The show will remain consistent, however, in the appearance of Hogwarts. The third film saw huge changes to the Hogwarts structure, as we saw things moving around like Hagrid's hut, the Forbidden Forest, and then we even saw the Whomping Willow, which was on the grounds in movie 2, which was then suddenly somewhere completely different in movie 3. Then suddenly parts of the castle appeared like they hadn't before. You know, for example, we suddenly had a clock tower and so on. Well, it seems the show won't have this issue, as they have already built the structure of Hogwarts beforehand, and that likely won't change. So those are the top main changes from the movies so far. There are a few other aspects, like the race swapping of Snape, which was different from the movies and the books, like the fact that Dudley and Petunia will be blonde as they are in the books, but overall, this is pretty much it. What I want to know is though, what aspects of the movies do you want them to keep? Is there anything from the movies that you would feel would be missing if they didn't include it? Drop your comments below and let's discuss this, and I will see you in the next video.